Hey, if you like to shop on Amazon like most everybody, you can help Southgate Media Group out by going to southgatemediagroup.com and look at the top. There's an Amazon link. You can click that, log into your account, and a portion of everything you buy will help support the podcast of Southgate Media. So it's cheap, it's easy, and you're just doing the same thing that you would do anyways.
This is Dan Jurgens, and if you want to have a good time, keep listening to the Krypton Report.
It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman.
Jason J. Lewis, the voice of Superman on Justice League Action. This is Mark Wade, writer of Superman Birthright, and you're listening to
the All Things Kryptonian podcast, including Superman and Supergirl.
We discuss games, movies, cartoons, TV shows, and comics.
Find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter.
Hey guys, before we get started, I just want to say, if you haven't done so yet, but check out the Aspiring Kryptonian podcast as well as the Last Sons of Krypton podcast, both hosted by friends of ours. Good time in the world of Superman. Welcome to the Krypton Report. I am your host, Tyler, the Superman of Blue, the Man of Tomorrow. And with me to fight the forces of evil is my better half, the Superman of Red, the Man of Steel, Mr. James Cole.
Hey, that's funny. Superman Red, Superman Blue, and we're gonna be talking about Superman Red and Blue today.
Superman Red and Blue is very interesting when they decided to do this because, they've done all these series of like black and white, and then what was crazy was people started arguing online, like, why isn't it red, white, and blue? I'm like, well, first of all, Superman's colors aren't red, white, and blue. They're blue, red, and gold if you want to throw a third color in there. But they've done these where it's like Batman black and white, where they just use the two colors to really try to tell the story, and I think it's interesting. And
they've even got a Harley Quinn, red. What is it?
Red and black.
Black and white and red.
Yeah, and that one they threw in the 3, and I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
I do think what's cool about this is a lot of the writers aren't the names that you really see around Superman right now. Like, there's no short by Mark Waid or anything like that. I'm looking at Volume 1 right now, or Issue 1, Volume 1, because I really like the short story format. It's fun to have books like this where it's just short little stories with your character and it really helps get to the core of Superman. Now, for Volume 1, or Issue 1, should I say, what cover did you get, James?
Oh, Lee Bermejo.
Yep, me too. One thing I love about Bermejo's art is Lee Bermejo draws Lee Bermejo's Superman and Lee Bermejo's Batman. He is, I think, the only artist I can think of, and I'm thinking, that has their own distinctive character stuff. Like, he doesn't come in and draw, like, Batman for whatever the continuity is. When he does a book or a cover, it's his Batman.
Yeah, all his detective covers, it's his Batman.
So it's his style of those characters, and they're just cemented that wherever you see his drawings, it's that version.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that.
It's kind of like Gary Frank and Jim Lee. They're similar, but not exactly.
But the thing is, Jim Lee's drawn for Superman for the New 52, or pre-New 52 continuity. Like, there's similarity, and then he drew some in Rebirth, because he always does, like, the first designs or whatever. But there's similarity in them. But, like, I can say, that Superman's drawn by Jim Lee, but it's not Jim Lee's Superman.
Right. I was going to say, if you look at certain Supermen, you can be like, oh, yeah, that's Jim Lee. Or, certain Batman.
Even
like,
Fabok.
That's Hush, iconic. That's Jim Lee's Batman. And that's what you would normally see from his Batman. But
did he ever? Yeah, because he drew New 52 Batman because he drew the first Justice League
arc of Justice League. Yeah. You're completely right that Lee Bermejo has a set Batman and a set Superman. You're completely right about that. Even when you look at Alex Ross's paintings of his characters, they are not all identical. They are not all the same Superman and same Batman. He does have a little bit of a difference in depending on the timeline and the character and the book. But yeah, Libra Mayhos have always been the same.
Let's dig into Superman Red and Blue issue. I really felt like this deserved its own kind of we need to take our time and talk about this. Because the first story, and I'm trying to see what the title is, because some of them, like, it just says at the end.
It's actually called Untitled.
Was it? Because that's what I was trying
Yes.
to check here. Yep. Untitled, you're right. So what's neat about this one is it has a little box that says, see World's Finest, number 192 for 193 for his first visit. So it's tying in kind of this past history. And this first one is
which is one of the things that we are looking forward to for getting stories coming out from New Frontier, the Infinite Frontier as it is now. Being able to have stories that connect back to something, specific, not just mainline continuity.
Exactly. And this is one of them. This story is very interesting because this story is about Superman going to visit a foreign country in the past, and what happens is he basically loses his powers as Superman and is put in a prison camp and is beaten and tortured in a prison camp.
For 8 months.
And now, as Clark Kent, he has to go back and interview the guy, Nicholas
Koslov.
And, he says, I was held for 8 months of starvation, indoctrination, forced labor, 8 months of being used as a propaganda tool to prove the weakness of the West. So right there, this is a psychological blow to Clark, Superman. And then he has to go back and interview this guy. And he's scared. Like, he has psychologically been damaged and hurt. Now he's full power Superman. And he's scared. And one of the best panels is when he's talking to this guy who's now like a elected politician. Clark's interviewing him, and there's a panel here where it's what he wants, and it's his heat vision just blasting the guy in the chest. And I think it's a good side of Superman to see. We don't, like his actual vulnerability and his how psychologically damaged he is because of this action and this man's stuff.
Yeah, I agree entirely. Some people out there would be like, yeah, Superman wouldn't even think about doing that, about heat visioning this guy in the chest. I'm like, well, apparently you just think of Superman as this, like, holier than thou character. Like, I think of Superman as somebody to look up to because he is a guy. He has these thoughts. He has, he has doubts in his mind. He has emotions and troubles and worries, and he still persists to do the right thing and be a good guy. Like, he's tried in his belief of, in his morals, his ethics. He's tried in that, in his life, in the world that surrounds him. It tries to test those in him. And those thoughts and things those thoughts and those doubts creep into his head, but he persists nonetheless. Mm-hmm. That's Superman.
Yes. You're absolutely correct. That is Superman. And because the thing about Superman is always you have to focus on the man. It's part of what's supposed to make him different from, like, Kara, who, if you look at it, is more Kryptonian because of her time spent on Krypton and age when she there's a great quote in here that Clark says, "It's easy to move on when you're the victimizer and not the victim." And it's a very interesting story for Superman to have been the victim of something.
Yeah. In the final page of the story here, he's same as everywhere. The city was full of people who lived well because of others who were exploited. Kozlov thrived in the past because few people cared to stand against him. Ironically, his only crime now was capitalism. Would anyone care how he made his money? Does anyone ever care enough? Yeah, I care. No matter the consequences, I will always care.
And during those panels, we see Clark notice the police, some issue, runs down an alley, shirt rip, super. Great story. Great story.
Yeah, it was. John Ridley wrote it.
The next one is called A Measure of Hope. And this one, I think, is my very hard to pick, but it's written by Brandon Easton, who was the writer of Truth and Justice #2. And it starts out at a funeral with a man talking, "Mom, so sorry, you shouldn't have died alone." And he's holding her urn, and in the reflection he sees Superman. And he says the character we learned, his name is Melvin, and he says, "Superman, I can't believe you're here." And he says, "My apologies, I should have been here earlier." And it's one of those stories that's kind of interesting to show how old Superman is, because Melvin looks like he's in his mid-20s, an adult, but the story of like what this is about takes place when Melvin was a child and wrote Superman a fan letter. When we see Superman,
he's drawn like he looks like he could be like 13, 14 years old.
You think so?
I think that he's a young pubescent boy in this. So, I mean, easily a decade from now, it
All
could
right.
be.
We'll
He's
say
a grown
10 years.
man.
We'll say 10 years.
Yeah.
Yes. But we find out, we see Superman about the school shutting down, and he wanted to see Superman. He talked about having to get out earlier. He saw Superman take down a villain, and he comes home early, and he finds his mom basically doing heroin.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a great thing where he comes in, and it's the bottom panel is basically a representation of the world shattered. He says, "My mom had been laid off from her job as a legal secretary. I knew she'd be home, and I'd surprise her with my incredible news." He comes home to find her doing drugs. And then, you see Superman, the panels when he was reading the letter. Melvin and Superman are talking about the situation. And then it cuts back. We see the mom trying to talk with Melvin. And he's got Superman sheets and blanket. And just very strong stuff.
Yeah. It's a very tough story because she is talking to her son about how she's stuck, like the choices that she made. She's trying to make better choices, but she continues to make the wrong ones, but she hopes that her son can make better choices growing.
And he asked what she hoped for. A better tomorrow. That's the only way to measure hope, by your capacity to believe that things can improve. Otherwise, no point getting up. And then, it kind of cuts back to the funeral. And Melvin tells Superman that they found her body. And Superman gives him a hug.
Yeah, she had gotten a bad batch of heroin, and they found her body, and it killed her. He put the photograph that she had in her purse of him and her when they were younger on her funeral program. And what's really nice is, he's not mad at Superman for not being able to fix it.
Yeah.
But they draw Superman so sad that he was too late to know.
I think that's a perfect example of Superman. Like, he knows it's not his fault, but he wants to be able to do as much as he can.
Yeah, he wished he could have done more to help.
And then he takes the urn with the picture and buries it on.
Yeah. So, that's a tough story. It's very good.
And I think that's why it's my favorite. The next is The Boy Who Saved Superman. And it's basically one of those, Superman's fighting and he's injured. And he falls into a building. And it starts, and this is what I like, it starts with what you learn is it's the boy a little older interviewing for a position at the Daily Planet. And then it cuts, and it's basically Clark remembering the story. So the quote-unquote present time is in blue predominantly, and the past is in red. And you see that Superman was fighting, and he's weak, and the boy's like trying to get him safe. The apartment building's coming down. Even in all this mess, like Superman is like a giant robot alien thing trying to get up, and we see the apartment building falls and crushes the kid's hand. And Superman like gets up, and he says to the kid, Superman says, "I've got to get you to a hospital." And he says, "I'll be okay. You must save our people. Go." And Superman goes, and he stops the monster. And at the end, you kind of have Clark meeting the boy. And he says, the boy goes, "I want to introduce myself." And he says, "Abdi." He says, "I've seen your work. It's incredible. I'll make sure to put in a good word with you with the chief." It's really great because, it's another story of Superman inspiring people through his actions. Found out that he became the recipient of the high-tech Starlab prosthetic hand. And at the end, he says, "You are well, Mr. Kent." He says, "Call me Clark."
Well, it's nice, that, Superman inspires that in people, but at some times like this story, Superman gets to actually experience the good heart, the bravery of somebody else, of a child, like this, who's more worried about Superman and more worried about other people than he is himself, And then, as it says he followed him, like he knows who he is. He graduated top of his class in photography, returned to his old home to record the damage as a journalist in the Peace Corps. He earned a master's in political philosophy, ran a marathon, and he saved Superman's life. So, not only is he a good person, he has a good heart, but he's intelligent, very strong-willed. So, it's nice when Superman can see that and admire people, because everybody looks up to him, but there are people, regular people, that Superman admires.
Yes, there are. And I think that's something that does not get brought up enough.
Yeah, I mean that goes with the that goes right hand in hand with, Superman. Superman is all good and godlike, like, that. I mean, from that perspective, you almost picture Superman as looking down on everybody when he looks around the world and sees the good just enough to lift himself back up when he's feeling down. He's having problems. When he's having doubt, the world helps to lift Superman back up because he's just a guy. People don't see that, or at least enough people don't see it.
Mm. So the next, I'll tell you, this one was interesting.
Yeah, this was a weird story.
It's basically, it starts in black and white, and this alien being has in all the color. He's trying to get like a fifth dimensional being and trying to find a way to get the colors back. Trying to have him explain what are colors. And then, he talked to Batman about the responsibility of, he has this basically Pandora's box with all the colors.
But like along with those colors comes like human emotion. The blue of the sky, the red rage, and things like that. Like in this world, there's no war and things like that because everybody is so gray. Not just their color, but like it does something to their attitude, to their personality. Not having color, not having difference.
There's no highs, there's no lows.
Yeah. Everything's just bland and in the middle. One panel I really do like in this one page is when they've got Batman and Superman together, and Batman's just all black, and all black with like the little white eyes and white around him for like the city, and Superman is all white, just the little black lines that show him.
Yep.
I really think that's an awesome looking page.
It's like kind of reminds me of like that movie Equilibrium, where they all take their special medicine to control their emotions, and human emotion is outlawed. Mm-hmm. So, and then,
I like that movie.
I do too. It's totally underappreciated. And
gives us Christian Bale and our new Jor-El, Angus McFadden.
Yep. And basically, Superman chooses to unleash the color, and it's like he had chosen the color of love, and it emanated. Literally, I can't talk.
Emanated.
I know, can't talk. Out across the world, heart throbbed with passion, and lovers threw their arms around one another. It was the color of fire. It flamed again, and heart bring courage in hearts to toast the toes and marshmallows. It was the color of anger, the color of blood. As red, anger, wars raged again. So, and then he chose the color of sadness as it. What, Stella? Emanated across the world. Silent funerals erupted in wailing. It was the color of music. It was the color of water. The color of blood signed the vein. That's the blue. So it is very interesting. It says, he brought back us the most human of color, and all the others followed. For better and worse, we became all the way human. It's a very interesting story. It definitely works very well as like this, in this format, the one-off style, like short story.
Yeah. Well, it also makes a complicated choice for Superman in that story, just being so mundane about just the colors and the way of life, the way of the world. I mean, when they describe red as love and anger and blood and war, and blue as in music and sadness and water and blood in the veins and life and everything. Like he still had to make a difficult choice on what makes people people, what makes them human. And, you know, that be releasing the colors and wars beginning again, fires happening. Yeah. So, I mean, it's still a difficult choice that Superman has to make in that story.
Mm-hmm. Because basically, it's that old debate of what is life without emotion? What is the world without emotion?
You know, what is good? What is good without evil?
You know, what is to love and lost and to never have loved at all kind of thing, like where, you know, how do we feel? Yeah, it's a steep. Now, the last one of this book, The School of Hard Knock Goats, I liked a lot. I actually showed it to Solomon because it is a story. It is Clark Kent's first day of kindergarten. And you see the mom and pa getting him ready. And he's talking about, what if I can't make friends? And then you see mom and pa's thought bubbles. What if the other children know he's different? What if they think he is a freak? And their worries.
Well, the first panel is he's ready for school, but he's floating. He's not even on the ground.
Right.
So
he gets on the bus. He's going to school. He's telling himself, "You can do this. You can do this." But it's cute because don't accidentally float. Don't run too fast. Don't see all red and anger. Don't wait. It's happening. I'm making friends. I think the teacher likes me. I know cool things to paint. I know fun things to play. I know the best joke. I did it. I did it. And, you know, we see him coming home. And they're like, "Tell us about it, Clark." And
it's nice, though, when he gets home, he gets off the bus, he can finally be himself. All that excitedness. He super speeds. He runs real fast. He flies. He's real happy.
Yeah. That's all kids ever want to do is just be themselves.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "I was doing it too. And I really had done it too, ... until Samantha." And it says, "She didn't do anything mean. Why do they make her play alone? If the kids in the class are all so nice to me, why are they rude to her? Are they bad people? No, they're not bad people. And they're so nice to me. I don't want to lose my new friends, and my parents were so worried." And I love that he's wrestling with this as a child, as a kindergarten. You know, he sees something going on, and he goes into him talking about what he's done and how people have reacted. He said, "I hoped other people would show me what to do." And then it says later that day, he's back at home, and he's kind of telling his parents about her and what's going on. And Jonathan says, "What are you going to do about it?" He says, "What? I'm 5. And I love the parents' response. Ma's only 5, and Pa's already 5. Like just that thought of looking at their kid. Wow. And then he said, "Clark, if you see a problem, especially if it affects another person, you must always see yourself as someone who can help solve that problem. Just seeing it and being bothered by it is not enough. If these new friends are worth having, then when you are kind to this little girl, you'll be kind to her. Maybe these other children don't know any better yet, but you do know better, and you know better. Your responsibility is to give what you can to help others, and whether they know it or not. This is the biggest help you give." I mean, that's some weight for a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
You know, and like I try to tell Solomon something similar because he's doing this thing where it's called like Little Ranchers, where it's like the kids get together on this farm and do stuff. And, you know, I'm trying to show him like, look, man, introduce yourself to different kids, talk to them. You know, trying to make friends, like, it's so weird and interesting at this age. And I'm like, look at the kids who don't have anybody. You know, say hi to them, talk to them too, you know, because Solomon's very usually outgoing. It cracks me up when he does these videos for his online schooling because the kids are very shy and kind of like back, and he's like, "Hey guys, it's me, Solomon." Like, like it's just adorable. Like, he's all excited.
Well, you've gotten him used to being in front of the camera and talking on the podcast and things like that, so he's ready to go. He's ready and raring to go.
Little game show host, man. He already told me when he grows up, he's going to do a podcast on Godzilla. So
awesome.
This is Solomon on the Godzilla podcast. Each week we talk about everything that is and was Godzilla.
Right.
But I love it because it's such a simple lesson of just trying to make friends and being kind. And he goes over to her and he says, "Hi." And she's like, "Do you like horses?" He's like, "I do." And then he's scared at first. Like, what if they see me? What if they don't want to be my friends anymore? What if they hate me? What if they're mean to me too? And then he sees them and they're coming over and he says, "What are you playing?" She says, "Horses." He says, "Oh, cool. Y'all want to play tag?" That's running, so it's kind of like horses. "Sure." "Clark, are you coming?" says Samantha. "Yeah, I'll be right there." And then I love the last panel, where it's like the shadow of Superman, of what's to come. So, and then it says, and then at the end it's like Friday, and it says, "Oh, there they are." As the bus pulls up and Ma's outside, and Clark gets off like, "Pa, Pa." You see one kid like, "Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Kent. What a sleepover is going to be." And I guess they're having a sleepover. And it's just,
more knock-knock jokes.
Yep, more knock-knock jokes. And we see, looks like it's a blended sleepover, boys and girls at kindergarten. So, okay, cool. I mean,
well, you certainly can't do it when they get older.
there's a very small window for that kind of thing.
Right. This story is really good. It's, all of these stories are really good in their own way. This is really nice to see. I mean, this shows you right in this little story, how worried the parents are about Clark, about the way other people see him. It kind of reminds us of something, doesn't it? Worried about how things are and about making friends and the abilities and stuff. And they don't, and in this story as well as like Man of Steel, which is what I was talking about, reminds us of something. They don't tell Clark what to do. They don't give him the answers. They don't give, it's not necessarily what is the right answer. They give him a choice and they give him a perspective, and he makes a choice. He makes a decision,
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of Clark and who he is. And no matter what happens, he makes the right decision. He still goes to talk to this young girl, play with her, and then everybody else. And then it gets them two together and everybody else wants to play.
Mm-hmm.
So he helped somebody out. It's just, that story reminds me a lot of those flashback scenes in Man of Steel, even the teenage flashback scenes.
I agree. And it's a different perspective on all different ways to tell. All right, Superman Red and Blue issue 2. What cover did you get?
I think I got the original. I think I got the basic cover.
Yeah.
By Nicola Scott.
The one where it's like
honestly,
Superman
there was,
and the American flag behind him.
Yeah. Honestly, I would say it was probably the one I didn't dislike. This time there wasn't a specific cover that I was like, oh, that's a really good cover. Because I check them out, and Bermejo's was the best cover in last issue. And honestly, this one didn't have any great covers, so I got the cover A.
I like this cover as far as how big the symbol is.
Right.
His face is all right. It's a little bulky. The American flag behind it's, red and blue, but okay. But yeah, there wasn't a cover that stood out that I really loved this time around. So it is kind of funny. I mean, I like the original cover for issue 1 too. I just prefer Bermejo over anything else. So
yeah, got my favorite cover on that one.
So let's jump into Superman Red and Blue number 2. First story. Oh, I like this.
Me too.
This story is all from Ma Kent's perspective. She is sitting with some ladies having lunch, and let's see how they phrase it. They basically say, it's great that you and Johnny had a child, even if you couldn't, Martha's like, not sure, what do you mean, go on? Have one of your own. And she's like, let me just say this.
like being adopted, there's something wrong with a child being adopted.
Right. She's like,
which, people are still looking at it this way.
I don't, dude, don't even get me started. I have to start a whole new podcast.
I mean, that's still the way of the world.
And let's just say how,
and these would be the same people who are pro-life, but then couldn't care less about the child who needs to be adopted.
Yep. And then they make it so hard and so expensive to adopt a child, when all you're trying to do is give a person who doesn't have anyone a place to live and some people to love them.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's not.
Family is not just about blood. Say that for damn sure.
Yeah. Yes. Like me, I don't got friends. Got family. So Martha says, Nora, let me just say this, if I may. If having one of your own, unquote, means worrying your boy's not getting enough sleep at night because he works himself to the bone, and it's cool because when she says this, we see him as Superman. If it means wonder if he's stuck in the middle of a busy day,
she knows what her son is doing, even though nobody else does.
If he stopped in the middle of his busy day as well, just now, to have himself a good meal, the kind that would fix him if he was home with us instead of their working metropolis, So he was the strength and injury he needs to face what they throws at him. And it's just funny because throws at him and super this, that. And I'm certain you ladies know that any day can damn well bring a challenge completely unlike what you imagined when you woke up that morning. And they're like, oh, it's true, so true, sorry. And then Martha's like, her eyes fixate. If having your own means giving your child advice, the advice he or she or they are not going to eat. And then we have this great picture at the bottom of Superman, and there's all of his rogues basically. Mixie,
and especially his powerful rogues. They got Parasite, Mixie, Doomsday, Livewire. Who else we got here? A Brainiac, another alien species. Is that Bizarro maybe?
Yeah. Look, and then the next page, you see Superman all beat up, sitting with his parents. It says, if staying up late to hear that door latch catch, simply so you can sneak a glimpse and verify with your own 2 eyes that the most precious part of you, your child, bird or not, it's okay. And then the 2 ladies are like, Then all I can say to your blessings from on high is you can stick. And it stops.
Ma!
They're like, we can't. We were just talking about you. However, did you get so handsome? Oh, I take after my pa. Here comes Clark with his Smallville Crows sweater on. And then he's nice to them, you're both looking. And then she's in his pa, Jonathan Trudy, doesn't answer to John. And then Clark's like, I'm sorry I'm so late, Ma. Sure you had a good reason. Ready to go? I am indeed. Just one more thing. Nora, Trudy, he is our
Yeah. It's a really nice story. It was very, very loving. And I love how her at the diner with the ladies is all red, and every time she's talking about Clark and they're showing us Superman, it's all blue.
Mm-hmm.
So you got blue panels and red panels, and then in the end when Clark shows up, like the top panel is the three ladies, it's red. And then the next panel, the middle panel, is Clark coming in, and the entire panel is blue. Everything that would be red, that's red in the panel with the ladies, is blue. And then he comes into the panel in the bottom, and Martha is now blue with him, and the other ladies are red. And then on the next panel, it's kind of the same thing.
Her and him are blue, and then when she pauses and says, I am indeed just one more thing. Like her last little anger is in red, and then when she says,
but you've got a transition to blue on her in that panel.
Yes, you do.
Yeah,
it fades. Like she has a blue shadow, and when she says, "He is our own,"
it's almost purple. It's like the red and the blue, and then on the other side of it, it's blue.
I'm just thinking, this may be my favorite of. It's in my top 2. I'll say that. The next one is interesting.
Yeah, I actually wanted to talk about that because the next one is one of my favorites, and maybe just because of the thing that's going on right now, everything that's going on right now. We've got a story with Val Zod. Yeah. So we get a multiverse Superman character. Last issue, it was all Clark, and all the other stories in this involve Clark, except for this one. This one, we've got Val Zod. He is the Superman in this story. So it was really cool to see Val Zod back from Earth 2, which, I am actually reading Convergence right now because Earth 2 actually goes all the way to Convergence, and then Earth 2 Society picks up after Convergence.
Yep.
So I'm reading Convergence right now. So I've got a close connection to Val Zod currently reading his books. And I really like the costume that Val Zod wears with the blue and the white, and no trunks.
Yep. And a little bit of red.
And a little bit of red. It just looks really good on that character. And I don't know if it's the colors, him being a black person, the black skin, and having the white pop out from the blue and his skin tone. But I think it's really cool, and I love seeing people cosplay as Val Zod too.
I agree. Like I said, in comics, kind of taking it back to things we talked about before, comics, I like seeing the Val Zod stories, but if I was going to build a movie, I think it's easier to build out else.
Right.
Because Val Zod
like
has
I said,
his
if you
origin,
were gonna,
and everything is very comic logic based of everything. You have the whole Earth 2, the Earth 2 rebuild of the Justice League and Convergence and all that. So.
Yeah. Well, like I said, they're not going to do the movie like the story that we get Val Zod introduced in. But if they used Val Zod in the movie as a Superman on another Earth, portrayed by a character, portrayed as a character of color as he is, it would make for a much more interesting story, as well as honoring a character that they already have who is of that race, I don't see them doing that story, especially since they canceled New Gods, just because Darkseid showed up in friggin' Justice League. Who knows how far it ever got? It was announced, 3 years ago, right after the 2017 movie came out, that she was doing it. So 3.5 years ago it was announced, and it has gone nowhere. No casting, nothing. Pre-production hell, basically.
Yep.
So, I mean, if it ever was going to go anywhere, now they're just probably using Snyder as a scapegoat.
Yep. Probably.
But, it was cool to see Calvin Ellis in this story. People are something is kidnapping people, and he is calling the person who's with him, the being who's with him, he's calling him Crypto. And the text bubbles are drawn in a bone shape when Crypto is speaking. We find out that he is actually a animal, a dog-like person. Maybe a dog-like part machine, part person. From the art, it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
But Crypto is speaking, so it is intelligent. It's not, it has the capability of speech. Doesn't necessarily mean it's intelligent. We know this today. But
That's what I think of.
he is speaking. Yeah, he is speaking. So it's kind of cool. We got Val-Zod and Crypto, and we find out that the person kidnapping people is Prometheus. I'm not very familiar with this character.
When I think of Prometheus,
but he does
think of getting his arm cut off. He was the one that got his arm cut off, right? By and everything, and that whole fight got up.
Oh, you know what? I think that's the Prometheus that I am familiar with, but that's about all I know of, really.
Yep, sounds about right.
Yeah, I don't know of a Prometheus who can come in and out of, because they call Into the name of this story is called Into the Zone. I don't know somebody who can go in and out of different dimensions, like this ghost zone, this ghost realm. So that's something new to me, but also this is Earth 2. So this could be kind of an original Prometheus.
Yeah. I feel like this story is like something that like I want to see the continuation of this art, so yeah, but it was good. It was like you said, it was cool to see what do you call it? A multiverse super.
Yeah. For this being a anthology series, Val-Zod, his character was inspired by Clark Kent. Clark Kent on Earth 2 died. And when he finally came out, he took the S-Shield, the House of El symbol, as his own to pay honor and tribute to Clark Kent, to pay honor and tribute to Superman.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice, we got another Kryptonian who is doing all he can because of Superman and becoming his own Superman in his own right.
Yep. That's cool.
Yeah. The nice thing about this story too is they give Val-Zod, like Val-Zod in Earth 2, he's a pacifist character. His first go-to is not fighting. Which actually, honestly, in my opinion, probably would work extremely well in a 20th century period movie about a black man in America, right?
Yep. Isn't
that everything that the civil rights movements were about?
Mm-hmm.
The sit-ins and everything.
I mean, if you did that, that'd be
that kind of does sit. That kind of just seems like that would fit perfectly with the idea that's floating around out there about what this new movie would be. Anyways, that fighting is not the first thing he goes to, and so in this story, I won't let go. Crypto, he won't let go. Yeah, it's just his first priority is saving this ship, saving all the slaves on this ship.
All right. Great story. Definitely like to see more of. I said, I would love to see a book of.
The thing that gives me a little confidence here about that is it says on the last panel, it says the end ?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll be able to get to see more Val Zod moving forward in the comics somewhere. Maybe get his own book. I'd love for him to get his own book.
Superman Val Zod. I mean, is what right there. Superman Calvin Ellis. Like, give me 2 titles, in this kind of like it's a new Superman title. They can each get their own book, like 12 or 6-issue arc or whatever, the miniseries to kind of expose the character and see if like we want more of that individual character. Because I wouldn't mind seeing these stories brought to life more than these little parts where if you're like, oh man, I want to read this story by this Superman. It's like, where is he at? Well, you got to dig. Like, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just like you said, Superman Val Zod, Superman Calvin Ellis. We've got Superman, the son of Kal-El, coming out. It's a John-centric book.
Yeah, and I'm surprised there's not a John story in here, kind of, or like, the Red and Blue could have done a couple more Otherworld Superman. I think it would have been nice.
Well, this is still supposed to be a 6-issue thing, isn't it? So
I don't remember. Is it like?
I think
my initial.
I'm actually going to look, but I think that's what it was. So we still have lots of anthology stories to come.
For some reason, I think it was 2-parter, but that could just be because I was just, I don't know. There's so much that goes on that it's sometimes hard to keep track. 6-issue, yep.
Awesome.
So yeah, awesome. Yeah, so let's see where it goes on. For some reason I was thinking it was just 2, but I don't know. There's so much going on. The next story.
Oh yeah, everything's changed in the last 6 months.
Called Patience is Lex Luthor style. He gets a package delivered, and I'm going to guess it's red kryptonite just because it's red and blue book. He's holding a glowing red crystal. He's building a armor suit. He's talking about it. He's talking about wanting to take down Superman. And it's like he's going through different scenarios. And he says, perhaps I'm overthinking things too much. Something simplifying. Things can have less room for error. And then it shows him like in a different kind of suit with a gun. And then he, cuts back to him in his office. Maybe making things a little more personal isn't necessarily a bad idea. So then it's Superman and Lex in a boxing match. And hopefully his gloves are enhanced with like the dust of that crystal. And he's beating on him, and Superman wins. And then basically Luthor decides to take it, put it in a box, and put it in a container because he doesn't know. He says, Miss Garnett, yes, Mr. Luthor, the container. Yes, sir. Return it. And we see her putting it on the shelf. Because basically Luthor doesn't know what to do with it right now. He's overthinking everything. And that's an interesting story. That Luthor, in a way, is his own worst enemy because he can't decide what to do to destroy Superman.
Yeah. Well, he comes out, patience, what does he say? Patience, they say, is a virtue. He says, sadly, patience feels too close to passivity, a quality I despise in men. So in his mind, it's let me keep doing something to try and stop Superman, to try and take down Superman. And in the end, I mean, that's the name of it. It's patience. He says, put the container back. So what he's doing, he has to sit and think on, Mm-hmm. He's not, he's just doing idea after idea. He's not having the patience for the right idea to come to him.
Right. So,
which he's the bad guy, so it doesn't, but whatever.
Exactly. So the next one is my other favorite in this one just because I like the simplicity, and I just have a thing for like kids. You know, it's basically show and tell. And the girl brought in a piece of like debris. She says a piece of metal from a robot that came from outer space, and it's called My Best Friend Superman by Stephanie Phillips. And they're basically, the kids are like, oh, you're not supposed to bring garbage and tell lies for show and tell, Ava. And they're picking on her and saying things. And the one kid says, Bigfoot's my best friend. That's my brother right there. And she says, I'm not lying. I did see Superman. And Superman is my friend. And it kind of cuts back to her telling the story. And how, you know, she met Superman. And, you know, it's her memento. And, you know, it's really great because Superman tells her, like, where he says, you know, it's very brave and things that you've done, but this situation is very dangerous, and I want to make sure you're safe. I want to help. I'm not a hero, but, and he says there are many different kinds of heroes, and not all of them have superpowers. You know, and then it cuts back to the class, and they're making fun of her. And the teacher, of course, the kid picking on people's name's Tyler. What a douche, giving us bad names. You know, the kids are going to go to the playground. And then, you know, she's sitting down, and they call her Super Dweeb. They take her drawings. They take her cape. You know. And then, you know, douchebag Tyler here says, hey, guys, now I'm Superman. And then you see this voice say, I guess that makes two of us. And then Superman shows up. And it's good to see you again, Ava. I want to thank you for your help. And she says, I didn't do anything. And then Superman basically says, you know, your actions make you a hero. And he takes his cape off and gives it to her. And he's like, isn't that right, Tyler? Dang it, stupid Tyler. I guess I'm sorry I called you a liar and took your cape. And then everyone's like, no, I'm on Superman's team. Yay, no, yay. And then the last panel, Superman winking back at Ava. It's just a good story. I like it. It's simple. You know, it's a simple lesson for kids to learn. You know, and Superman he's not mean to anybody. It reminds me, like, do you remember that part, I think it was in season 1 of Supergirl, where the little girl's dressed up as Supergirl and she's coming to get on the bus and they're picking on her. And she's talking about, like, she loves Supergirl. And then Supergirl, like, hears it as she's flying and she drops down and uses her X-ray vision and sees the girl's name on her backpack and talks to her as her friend and then says something and then flies off. And all the kids are like, oh my gosh. So,
right.
And then we have...
Well, what's really cool is she gets her cape taken by that boy, and Superman gives her his cape. So in the end of the story, she's wearing his cape, not him.
And the last one is another kind of, I guess you could say, otherworld Superman. It is actually a kind of futuristic cyborg Superman. It's more dark and, creepy because it uses more blacks and everything.
Yeah. It's interesting how cyborg Superman is black and red.
And it's Henshaw. Because Clark even says, hey, Henshaw, when he shows up, or Superman, when he shows up.
Yeah, it's not New 52 Zor-El Cyborg Superman.
So this one was one of those, like, okay. I was okay with it. It's my least favorite.
I mean, it was cool to see Cyborg Superman back and doing something evil. But I mean, that's probably the best thing about the story. is we got a villain for Superman to punch.
Yeah, I will agree.
You know, Cyborg Superman created this. What did he call it? I'm a creator. Thought he called it something. He will be my dog of death. I mean, that's what he says. But you know, once he released it, it killed all the scientists, and he's using it to. He's powering it up. Just basically another weapon of his. But yeah, I mean, it's cool. We get Superman saving who he can, the janitor, and getting to punch Henshaw a few times, knock him out, knock him around, and
he says,
and the ending was him using his head more than his fists, though.
He says, the janitor says, but Cyborg and his death dog, they will, and Superman says, without humanity to govern its use, power only destroys. And
yeah, what do you think Cyborg's energy-hungry creation will do when there's no enemy left to consume? Cyborg Superman, no, stay back.
So it was good. I like it. I think sometimes in anthology books, I like the stories where you're like, okay, are they going to make another one, or could they continue this, or is it just kind of a quick wink, one and done type thing?
Yeah.
Like vignette type.
Which I think most of the stories in this, I think are like that. You know, they're your clip show, something that's finite and just has a spot in the story in a history somewhere. But the Val Zod story, I think here is the main one that has a potential to give us something else, give us something new.
I agree. Well, we'll put a pin in red and blue until
I got a date here of May 18th for the release of number 3.
Yep. And I'm going to get the alternative cover. I sent you a picture just now of the alternative cover that I want to get.
I was going to say, I see 2 of them, and I think I know which one I want. And then we got June 15th for number 4, and it's got 2 of 3 covers on there.
Ooh, I want to see that.
The third one's not out yet. It doesn't. At least they don't have it up on this.
Send that link.
Okay.
But all right, everybody, that was a good time. You know, dipping into red and blue. Let us know your thoughts, and remember,